My name is Professor Anne Karagozian, and it is my honor to be the director of UCLA's Promise Armenian Institute. I am enormously honored for His Holiness to be with us today during his pontifical visit to Southern California upon the 30th anniversary of his enthronement as Catholicos. Our UCLA community and many friends from our greater Southern California Armenian American community are all looking forward to hearing the Vehapar's address to us, which is entitled Saving Our Planet, a Top Global Priority. While this event is not being live streamed, we are recording it for future viewing at our Promise Armenian Institute website and YouTube channel. And in light of this, we would ask that you all silence your phones during this event so that we can record properly. Very importantly, let me also acknowledge, on behalf of our campus, our presence today on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the indigenous Gabrielino Tongva peoples. It is a privilege for our institution to acknowledge the history of the land on which we are established. And from a personal perspective, this land acknowledgement statement that is read time and time again at our events is particularly meaningful to those of us who similarly carry in our hearts the indigenous Armenians of Artsakh, who at present do not occupy their ancestral lands. At this time, it gives me great pleasure to welcome to the podium Professor Cindy Fan, who is UCLA's Vice Provost for International Studies and Global Engagement, and is also a professor in UCLA's Department of Geography. As UCLA's Senior International Officer, Vice Provost Fan provides strategic leadership for our university's international partnerships and agreements. She also represents UCLA globally and promotes international education and research, and through her leadership of the UCLA International Institute, oversees 22 interdisciplinary research centers and institutes, including our own organization, the UCLA Promise Armenian Institute. She also oversees 3 outreach programs and 8 degree programs. Vice Provost Fan is a native of Hong Kong and received her PhD from The Ohio State University. She is internationally renowned for her research on migration, split households, and regional development in China. She has published widely in these areas and has won numerous awards and recognitions, including election to the National Academy of International Education. Dr. Fan will now bring greetings on behalf of our campus. Cindy?
Thank you, Anne. Good evening. On behalf of UCLA, would like to extend my welcome, my sincere welcome to all of you. It's wonderful to have all of you here this evening. And I especially welcome His Holiness Aram I, Catholicos of the Great House of Cilicia. Thank you for making time to speak with us tonight. UCLA has had the pleasure of welcoming His Holiness to campus in years past, and we are delighted to host him again this year, this evening. It is an honor to be included as part of his visit to North America. It's a long trip, I know. It's literally half the world away. And since His Holiness' last visit to campus, UCLA has seen the creation of the Promise Armenian Institute, which is hosting this evening's event. The Promise Armenian Institute was established in 2019 through the vision of Dr. Eric Azraelian and made possible by a generous gift from the estate of Khatcherian. And the Promise Armenian Institute is one of, as Anne mentioned, 22 interdisciplinary research centers in the International Institute at UCLA. And our mission is to promote global education, research, and engagement, and to support UCLA's primary purpose to create, disseminate, apply, and preserve knowledge for the betterment of the global society. And led by Anne Karagozian, Distinguished Professor of Mechanical and Aerospace Engineering at UCLA, the Promise Armenian Institute is designed to be a hub for world-class research and teaching, not only in fields related to Armenian studies, but in addition, for coordinating interdisciplinary research and public impact programs relevant to Armenia and Armenians across UCLA and with the Republic of Armenia and the diaspora. And the Promise Armenian Institute's size, scope, and interdisciplinary approach make it the first of its kind in the world, and UCLA is ideally positioned to make these important contributions. My gratitude to Professor Karagozian and your team and the Promise Armenian Institute team for all your work and for hosting this evening's event. Visits to UCLA by leaders such as His Holiness contribute to our broader understanding of the world and offer invaluable perspectives for our campus and the local Los Angeles community. We are fortunate to have this unique opportunity to engage with an influential leader such as His Holiness. So many thanks to all of you for joining us this evening. I look forward to your talk, Your Holiness. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Cindy. And now it gives me great pleasure to introduce His Eminence, Archbishop Kegham Khatcherian, Prelate of the Western Prelacy of the Armenian Apostolic Church of America. His Eminence was born in Beirut, Lebanon, and was ordained as a deacon in 1979. He completed his studies at the Seminary of the Catholicos of the Holy See of Cilicia in 1981, and in that same year was ordained a celibate priest. His Eminence pursued his theological education at the Holy Spirit University of Kaslik in Lebanon, studied Arabic literature at St. Joseph University in Beirut, and studied law at the Lebanese University. In 1997, he was elected prelate of the Armenian Prelacy of Lebanon, and in 2000, he was ordained a bishop, later receiving the title of Archbishop in 2010. In 2017, His Eminence was elected as the prelate of the Prelacy of the Armenian Apostolic Church of Greece. And finally, in 2024, His Eminence Archbishop Khatcherian was elected as the prelate of the Western Prelacy of the United States. He has long participated in various interchurch and interreligious organizations, serving as a member of the Executive Committee of the Middle East Council of Churches, and he continues to serve as the co-chairman of the Central Religious Council of the Catholicos of the Holy See of Cilicia. We are delighted to welcome His Eminence, Archbishop Khatcherian, to the podium to offer greetings and words of welcome.
With heartfelt gratitude and Christian warmth, we extend our deepest appreciation to His Holiness Aram I, Catholicos of the Great House of Cilicia, who, during his blessed pontifical visit to the Western Prelacy of the United States, graciously took the time to deliver a meaningful and enriching lecture at UCLA. This memorable lecture holds a special place within His Holiness Catholicos Aram I's long-standing academic and intellectual contributions and engagements. During previous pontifical visits, His Holiness has met with UCLA's esteemed historians, the founding scholars of wisdom and of its Armenian Studies program, and countless students offering messages of wisdom and inspiration. Today's lecture is a continuation of that profound connection. His Holiness Catholicos Aram I is widely respected across the globe, not only as a leading spiritual figure who has guided the Great House of Cilicia with wisdom and unwavering dedication for over 3 decades, but also as a distinguished theologian with a PhD, a religious scholar, and a long-standing voice in the international ecumenical movement. He is a visionary intellectual whose impact on the Armenian Church and nation is both unique and far-reaching. His dedication to academic dialogue, youth in higher education, and forward-thinking leadership has shaped generations and elevated a scholarly discourse worldwide. A true cultivator of thought, His Holiness embodies a lifelong passion for knowledge and critical inquiry. Beyond his vast theological and scholarly knowledge, His Holiness Catholicos Aram I is also a gifted educator, mentoring and shaping the minds of seminary students, addressing national and global audiences, and engaging in public dialogue to advance the Armenian cause and enrich the spiritual and cultural fabric of our nation. His messages are grounded in deep historical awareness and political insight, always aimed at preserving with Armenian identity and elevating the mission of the Armenian Church. As a prolific bilingual author and a prominent figure in modern Armenian history, this marks His Holiness Aram I's 6th pontifical visit to our community, an enduring blessing for which we are deeply thankful. On this occasion, we also offer words of appreciation to the UCLA administration for its continued spirit of collaboration with the Western Prelacy over the years. The university has consistently welcomed joint academic initiatives, and today's event is a meaningful continuation of that partnership. We are pleased that, once again, UCLA offers a fitting tribute to His Holiness through this distinguished lecture. Throughout his pontifical visit to the Western Prelacy, His Holiness always dedicates time to sharing his insights through academic and professional forums, meeting with scholars, professors, and students in institutions of higher learning. His messages continue to inspire minds and hearts alike. We extend our heartfelt appreciation to Dr. Anne Karagozian, Director of the Promise Armenian Institute at UCLA, for her vital support and contributions in organizing this event. Our deep appreciation also goes to Dr. Eric Israelian, a respected national benefactor and a physician whose vision and dedication brought the Promise Armenian Institute to life through the legacy gift of the late prominent benefactor Khatcherian. And finally, to all of you in attendance, thank you for being part of this memorable occasion. On behalf of the Western Prelacy of the United States, our fellow academic and professional community, we extend our heartfelt well wishes to His Holiness Catholicos Aram I, a pillar of thought and faith, for continued health, strength, and years of lasting accomplishments. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Archbishop Khatcherian. And now it is my great honor and blessing to introduce to you our distinguished speaker for the evening, His Holiness Aram I, Catholicos of the Armenian Church of the Holy See of Cilicia. His Holiness was born in Beirut, Lebanon, and studied at the Armenian Theological Seminary in Antelias, Lebanon, as well as the Ecumenical Institute of Bossi in Geneva, Switzerland, the Near East School of Theology, the American University of Beirut, Oxford University, and Fordham University in New York. He holds BA, MDiv, STM, and PhD degrees, and also holds several honorary degrees. The Vehapar's major areas of scholarly specialization are in philosophy, systematic theology, Near Eastern church history, and ecumenism. His Holiness Catholicos Aram I was ordained as a celibate priest in 1968 and obtained the title of Vartabed in 1970. In 1978, he was elected primate of the Armenian Orthodox community in Lebanon, receiving episcopal ordination in 1980, and he was elevated to archbishop in 1985. Serving as primate of the Armenian community of Lebanon during the difficult years of the Lebanese Civil War, His Holiness reorganized parishes and schools, restructured and reactivated church-related institutions, and renewed community leadership. In June 1995, he was elected Catholicos, that is, the head of the church, by the Electoral Assembly of the Armenian Catholicos of Cilicia. Among his many notable roles, His Holiness was the first Orthodox and the youngest person to be elected moderator of the Central and Executive Committees of the World Council of Churches, the highest position of this global fellowship of churches, which comprises more than 350 churches from different confessions, cultures, nations, and regions. As a strong supporter of interreligious relations, dialogue, and cooperation, His Holiness has also played a significant part in promoting common values, mutual understanding, and peaceful coexistence among religions. The Armenian cause has been integral to the ministry of His Holiness throughout his career, because he sees it as a cause for justice and fundamental human rights. His Holiness has made it a vital dimension of his spiritual, intellectual, and ecumenical work. Today, His Holiness will address our community on the important subject of saving our planet, a top global priority, one that concerns all of us here, whether we are Armenian or not. And now, Your Holiness, Vehaparded, I welcome you to our podium. Thank you.
Dear friends, at the outset of my presentation, I would like to express my warm thanks and high appreciation to the authorities of the UCLA, this great institution of higher learning, and to the Promise Armenian Institute for inviting me to share with you my perspectives regarding an issue which is impacting the daily life of societies in different parts of the world. Nowadays, in most of the hotels in different parts of the world, one may notice the following ad, and I quote, "Help us to save the planet by using 1 towel per day, less water and electricity." Similar ads and reminders also appear in multiple centers and institutions, and even in the streets of several countries. For some, such advertisements are simply useless in the face of huge and complex crises. For others, however, such reminders may, in one way or another, help us to save the planet. Now, I may use different words to describe the crisis: planet, universe, cosmos, and the creation. I prefer to use 2 words, creation. It's a theological word which embraces the totality of the universe in all its dimensions, aspects, and manifestations. And the planet for this, our house, the house of humanity. Global warming, or otherwise known as climate change, is a global and existential problem strongly affecting all aspects and dimensions of our daily life. The problem is deeper than its human and environmental expressions and repercussions. It embraces the whole ecosystem. According to scientists, the planet, the only household of humanity, is on the edge of self-destruction. In fact, the increasing reduction of non-renewable resources of the planet, the intensifying of flooding and hurricanes, the research of old viruses, and the steady enlargement of the holes in the ozone. Just to give you some concrete examples, are alarming signs, indeed, of deepening the ecological crisis. Let me put it clearly. In my judgment, the ecological crisis is not an environmental problem as often referred to. It is essentially an ethical problem related to humanity's role in the creation. I think this is the crux, the essence of the problem. Global warming and climate change are only the symptoms of the crisis. In fact, we often deal with the symptoms of the crises we face and avoid, for one reason or another, to tackle their root causes. This is also true when we address the political, social, and economic aspects and implications of the ecological crisis and evade treating its real cause. My assessment of the ecological crisis is fundamentally ethical, that considers anthropocentric, that is to say, human being-centered approach, namely uncontrollable and uncritical exploitation of the planet by the human being. This is indeed the root cause of the ecological crisis. Let me briefly explain the basis of my view. According to monotheistic religions, namely Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, God is the creator of the whole universe, of the whole creation. The Genesis narrative of creation emphasizes that creation was good by its origin, nature, and purpose. Evil was not part of the creation. In fact, according to philosophy and theology, evil and good cannot exist together. There is no coexistence between these two. Good is created by God, and evil is the absence of good. And evil is due to human disobedience to God, as well as his misuse and abuse by the human being within the context of human being, creation, God relationship. The Bible states that God has endowed the first human beings, Adam and Eve, with his image and likeness, and appointed them as his representatives and co-workers. Their responsibility was to guard, to protect, to enrich, to develop the creation. The human stewardship implied certainly responsibility towards the creation and the accountability towards the Creator, God. The monotheistic religions consider the human being as the image of the whole creation, microcosm. In him, the spiritual and material come together. And as such, the human being is integral and organic part of the creation. You cannot draw a line of separation between creation and the human being. But we have to be careful regarding the role and the place of human being in the creation. The human being is not the owner of the creation, but only its managers, administrators, and the guardian. The human being is given by the Creator the right to use the sources of the creation for his own survival and not for his glory and power. A clear distinction must be made between need and greed, the right use and abuse. Here is the problem that we are facing as an environmental crisis. In fact, the ecological crisis started when the first human being considered himself as the master of the creation, misusing and abusing his God-given privilege as God's representative. Again, here is the real problem and the beginning of the crisis. Creation as God's work is sacred. What God does is sacred according to the three monotheistic religions. Creation is a concrete means for God-humanity communication. The ecological crisis is not due to disorder within the created order. It is fundamentally human-made. It is due to human self-confidence, self-reliance, and self-glorification. The misuse and abuse of the creation by the human being is a sin against God. I also consider that as a crime against the creation. It is due to lack of responsibility and accountability. Now the question is, how can we save the planet? This is a common problem, a common issue, and saving the planet should be through a common effort. I firmly believe that U-turn to human stewardship, undergirded by responsibility and accountability, is the only and the most efficient way to save the planet. In my opinion, there are at least 4 concrete ways of reducing at least the intensity and the urgency of the ecological crisis. And these are: 1, a growing shift from quantitative production to qualitative development. In fact, uncontrolled economic growth remains a serious threat to ecological and human survival. We must aim at a sustainable development which gives priority to the environment's capacity, vulnerability, and integrity. Sustainability, which has become a key strategy nowadays in multiple spheres of human life, aims at safeguarding the integrity, inviolability, and the sacredness, in a sense, of the creation and the life within this creation. 2, a growing shift from aggressive consumerism to a pattern of responsible living. Consumerism is a major risk to the future of planet. It has reached at a level which not only it may further deepen the gap between what is called haves and have-nots, rich and poor nations, it may also threaten the sustainability and continuity of life on the planet. In fact, if you compare the GDP of countries, both the productivity of the country and the income of the citizens, you can clearly identify the enormous gap between rich and poor. Here is another problem that we must face seriously. 3, a growing shift from population explosion to family planning. When birth rates significantly exceed death rates because of improved healthcare and family planning, it becomes an urgent matter. Religions, cultures, and governments have different perspectives on this matter. We should bear in mind that population explosion may, sooner or later, becomes a serious threat to the planet in the face of limited resources of food and water. 4, a growing shift from energy-consuming projects to energy-saving programs. United Nations and global summits have taken a number of decisions and have set guidelines for energy saving. However, the implementation of these measures thus far is very limited and slow. Clearly, the ecological crisis has been politicized. Powerful countries do care about their economy rather than about the environmental safety of their citizens and the future of humanity. Transnational organizations are concerned about the level of their productivity and income rather than about the sustainability of the environment. Meanwhile, according to experts, the ecological crisis deepens, intensifies day by day. Creation is under attack by human beings. By the human being who was called by God, by the Creator, to develop, to enrich, and protect the creation, the only household of humanity. Ecological crisis is indeed a crisis of life, of human existence on this planet. The planet is moving towards self-destruction day by day. Now the question is, what should we do? The salvation of the planet, I repeat, our only home, calls urgently, first, for awareness building towards God-given role of stewardship. Second, for building responsible communities which are committed to change their lifestyle. 3, for governments, transnational organizations, and institutions to consider with utmost seriousness the crucial urgency of ecological crisis. Unfortunately, this is not the case today. Indeed, global warming should become global warning. I repeat, global warming should become a global warning for each of us. All of us have a role to play to save the planet. This is the time for wake-up call. We must respond to this call, and in fact to this deepening and growing threat, with the sense of profound responsibility and accountability. Otherwise, our planet will continue its move towards self-destruction. Thank you.
We'll sit here and field the questions, but perhaps first I could pose a question to you, Zeha Pardet. As an engineer, I am very, very appreciative of your identification of the threats to our environment and the responsibilities that we have as citizens of our planet. I was reading in a book recently by Dr. Francis Collins in the United States. He is the former director of the U.S. National Institutes of Health, a very distinguished scientist, and he is also a very devout Christian. And he writes in his book, "We are in serious trouble when some believe that their faith requires them to distrust science, or when others believe that political allegiances are a better source of wisdom than truth, faith, or science." Now, Dr. Francis Collins is speaking here about medical science, but we could say the same thing about climate science and global warming, these terms are now with some controversy in some circles, let us say. Do you, sir, feel that this mistrust of science is a cultural problem in the United States, worldwide? And if so, are there remedies for a distrust of science that will enable us to work together to save the planet and to improve our environment?
Well,
And can you say, sir? I think it's.
I fully agree with this perspective. I think we should make a clear distinction between politics and science. Reconciliation between these two opposite poles is often impossible. I think science has its specific place and role regarding the issues which are part of their sphere. Often we politicize certain realities and facts which are in contradiction with scientific analysis. Well, for centuries, there has been some sort of struggle or quarrel between, let me put it in different way, between science and religion. Nowadays, I know that in some quarters, this contradiction is still prevail. But in my judgment, I think they need to work together. Regarding particularly the ecological issues, I don't believe that the politics have anything to say.
Definitely.
This realm belongs par excellence to ecologists, to scientists, to theologians. My approach was, as you realized, was ethical, theological. And I believe that most of the ecologists maintain some elements from ethical and theological approach. I said some. They may not share fully my approach, but I think we have to look at these realities in a holistic perspective. In a holistic perspective, the universities, there are interdisciplinary courses. What is the role of this course? Well, that means that we may, and we should, in fact, you said, look at a given reality or a problem from different angles. Regarding the ecology, I believe that this, you see, scientific analysis is very important, but of course, you see, ethical, theological perspective as well comes to complete the analysis of the scientists.
Thank you so much. We have individuals who have microphones, I believe. If there is anyone in the audience who would like to ask a question, feel free to raise your hand and someone will come. Emily Karagozian will come to you. There's a question here.
You go sir and there are with the enough social and the step. Not our and the Jareth my Kegham. In English, we have make garbage we in South Europe and people are the yes give for them navigator. Then our South Vacanity, I'll get a guy, a foot better is up last time. UK government will make us maybe have certain about that some and local government. My question that they cost us to well, and no child and met on last with transaction, or can I start of magnet. Mesh, I stand out at the time I kept the top word to keep out cut the Germany. I think that Kegham look galdig at aratmak bütün standnet kortes ayrıltı alışma. That should be that.
I'll let out all this. Well,
No, I should make
well, I'll let out.
speak. Well, we are in a different world. You are in different world, my dear friend. How we can reconcile this? Yeah. Well, I know what you're talking about, but let's turn to ecological crisis, please.
That's
Okay, thank you. I think there is a young man here who had a question, Emily,
but
right over here.
I wasn't the other them. And they kind of just keep
Is that
it's in took to let's see. I suppose over the other day. I've heard you mention how there's a connection between population and the impending ecological crisis. My question is essentially, how will the church, as a religious institution, push back against demographic collapse, push back against much of the influence we see of family planning, contraception, and things of that nature in the modern era?
Well, I raised this question, family planning, you mean, right? I said the churches, religions, the governments, the communities have different perspectives on this matter. It all depends the context in which we live. China, for instance. China, one extreme, and Lebanon, where I come from, is another extreme. Armenia is another extreme. You see, therefore, I think we cannot generalize this or provide a clear definition or have a clear position on this matter. We need to contextualize. We need to contextualize this issue, but it is an issue.
Thank you. Is there's a question back here?
No. Your Holiness, thank you for this wonderful state chapter. It's the day encouraging day and valuable. And what I mean, take for it is the way you describe the impact on the environment as a sin, as a crime. While we stick to sin, I think if everybody believe that, it creates such a pathway to repair the planet without the impact of politics or any other deviating jerk. That is what you're a believer. This is a sin, and as a believer, you shouldn't commit sins. Incredibly profound. Thank you.
Well, I think that's correct. I used the word sin from ethical perspectives, but it's a crime, you see. The planet is our house. How you deal with your house? So we need to establish friendly relationship with the creation. You know, but this is our house. Therefore, any kind of a destructive, aggressive approach to creation, in my humble judgment, is a crime. You see, in religious, let's say, word, it's a sin. This is the way I understand. And the problem is that many governments, most of the governments, I would say, you will see, politicize this question. For them, you will see, maintaining their political power for economic productivity and financial income is priority than the safety of humanity and the protection of the creation.
Thank you so much, very important. Vera Bardet, you tied that kind of neglect of the environment, the neglect of the creation to greed, to selfish. And I must confess that those in my generation, the baby boom generation, did not care enough, have not cared enough about the environment. And we strive, I think, individually, irrespective of what we hear in the news and in the political sphere, to strive to improve the environment in which we live. But the young people, many in this room, can do much better. Do you have a special message to the young people, the students at UCLA and elsewhere, in terms of their commitment to the environment?
Well, speaking about the youth, I always remind ourselves and the youth that they belong to the present, not to the futures. That means that they are called to play an active role in our community life and in all spheres of the society. They have something very important. They have something different. They have something more, let's say, global to offer to our communities. In the sphere of ecological crisis, of course, you see, they have an important role. And I believe, as I said, you see, in my presentation, awareness building is very important. How we can develop in different ways awareness building. And the young people can play a leading role in this respect. The people should know. The people should know that we should not destroy our home. We have to protect that for the future generation. So all these crises or environmental problems that we are facing are due to anthropological, human-centered problem. And that is why I believe that the young generation, and particularly the students of universities, have an important role to play. On the one hand, challenging the multinational organizations, the governments, the nations, who are misusing and abusing and exploiting the creation for their own benefits. I think you have to challenge them. That is your first role. And then, as I said, the awareness building in terms of crucial urgency, the vital importance of safeguarding, protecting the integrity, the safety of the planet.
Wonderful, thank you. Do we have any other, Dr. Fan? Oh, I'm sorry, Paul, go ahead.
Thank you, dear Holiness, for this very profound and urgent message that's so timely right now. Many of us in California are very proud that we have led the world in environmental protection. California's example on renewable energy has inspired many others throughout the world. And here in Los Angeles, as of last month, we stopped using coal entirely. So every electron that we get here, there's not an electron that's generating some coal in Los Angeles anymore. But for those of us who've worked in this area, there is an ethical challenge because much of the developing world argues that they should have the opportunity to use means of production that we have used for hundreds of years now here in the developed world. They are behind us, and they said we can't stop using coal. We need to use things like that for our own development, on the one hand. And then on the other hand, there are those in our own country who say there should be no limitations whatsoever. We should be able to make as much money and develop as much as we want. So I guess the question is, how can the faith community around the world help develop a consensus about the urgency of your very message across borders and across different circumstances that different parts of the world face in addressing?
Well, I believe that the specific role of faith communities is just reminding, facilitating, and challenging. We are not experts in the fields. From our ethical values, or perspective rather, I think we have to remind them, we have to challenge them, we have to criticize them, that what you are doing is wrong. It's terribly wrong. And number two, related to the universities, I think education is of crucial urgency. The people should know what we are talking about. For instance, renewable sources, non-renewable sources. The people should know what's the difference. We are destroying the non-renewable sources. So what could be implications of that or repercussions of that? The people should know. The ozones. What is the ozone?
Oh,
Those who are exploiting or misusing, abusing the creation should know this. The repercussions of what they are doing. Therefore, my proposal is that the universities, this UCLA, should give a high priority to the courses, to the research pertaining to ecological crisis.
And I can say that we do, actually.
Yeah.
We teach many different courses in many different fields that focus on the environment and the implications of technology. Cindy, we have two questions. Maybe Cindy Fan and then me.
Thank you, Your Holiness, for reminding all of us that instead of thinking of ourselves as enders of resources, we should think of ourselves as managers and administrators and guardians of the home and the resources. And also thank you for affirming the value and role of universities. We need to hear more about that now. I was very intrigued by, and I'm going to quote you a lot, that global warming is global warning. It's very easy to remember, but I also think that there's a deeper meaning there. So my question to you is, when I hear the word warning, that means if you don't do something bad might happen, right? So I want to ask you about the something bad, right? And we don't, listen to the warning, we don't pay attention to the warning. In your opinion, what is it that is bad that's going to happen? Is it going to be from an environmental point of view, or maybe since you mentioned ethical? It's just something bad? Is this going to be, really bad in terms of environment, or really bad in terms of, other aspects?
Well, what's happening is very bad. You see, it's very dangerous. It's very dangerous, you see. And that is why, as I said, you see, we always speak about the global warming. But we have to tell the people, look, the global warming will destroy humanity. You see, destroying the planet means destroying life in all its aspects, rational and irrational life, the destruction of life. As I said, you see, the surgeon of the new viruses, or old viruses. I'm not expert in this, but all these things are happening in this very small planet. And that is why I think we have to always remind the people in different ways, and in fact, in a much more efficient, urgent way, that look, the planet is on the verge of total destruction, and we are responsible for that. The human being responsible. God created now, this is the religious language, God created this beautiful universe creation and gave it to us in a sense to continue, you see, his work by enriching, protecting it, preserving it. And the human being, starting from our ancestors, Adam and Eve, let's not forget it, Adam and Eve, they're together. You see, the crisis started with the way they responded, you see, to the offer of God. Therefore, you see, we have to constantly remind the people that what's happening in the world is terribly bad and dangerous.
Thank you, Your Holiness. I'd like to touch back earlier what you mentioned regarding young people and going after multinational corporations and activism. I am a 26-year-old corporate data analyst, and every day my managers and executives are really excited about AI, which we know can be very disruptive to the environment and expedite the destruction that you're talking about. Separate from my individual issue, I imagine there's a lot of normal people, Christians, Armenians, whatever you want to call us, that feel like we are parts of those machines, like parts of those multinational corporations that are kind of living in this tension, that know that what is going on is a major problem, but are not really sure how to respond in those environments and situations as part of those who are in the events. And I'm just wondering what you advise we could do.
Well, you see, I am also interested in AI, in technology. You see, and we need to keep pace with this development in the sphere of technology. And technology, indeed, is one of the most concrete manifestation of what we call globalization. Technology is a must. AI as well is becoming more and more a must part of our daily life. Now, you see, the problem is how we respond to that, how we use that. As I said, we should make a clear distinction between right use, misuse, and abuse. Here is the challenge. Here is also the problem. Well, in the political sphere, they are deliberately misusing it, for political and economic power. And that is why religions should challenge them, should remind them, and also the young generation, the students, the academicians, what you are doing is wrong. You are in the wrong direction, and in this way, we are going to destroy our planet.
Okay. I don't see any other hands in the audience. So, is there? So sorry.
Thank you, Your Holiness, for using that platform to talk about a topic that's highly under discussed in the Armenian community, particularly
But
Teach him a little louder. Louder, please.
come closer, but closer.
What can be that coming? Yeah, good connection. They came here all this very intentional time to discuss a topic that's often when you're discussed the Aryan community. I have a question about two parts. You kind of lay the fault of this problem of ecological devastation, responsibility on your feet, all humans. But I think it's fair to say that there are those that have a far more outsized influence. I mean, even if all 500 million of us were to only use one towel a day, like to provide an example of a hotel, and we were only to flush whenever gas go that went to, then really in the ecological. So is it fair to say that the youth and everyone else considering the preservation of the earth is the most important thing, arguably, to the human race? Is it fair to say our people would have a mandate to do anything that's necessary to preserve the earth at any cost, any kind of social change, and how to bring that about? Would we have the mandate theologically to do anything to preserve the earth?
Well, as I said in my talk, preservation, protection, and even enriching, you see, the planet is our common responsibility. Each of us has something to do. Something to do. We need to participate in different ways in these common efforts. Well, this announcement, the advertisements in the hotels using the towel, less electricity and water, I think in a sense it's very important, you see. It's very important. There's the millions of people. If they do that, the impact of that will be very positive. And that's why, you see, this is a global crisis that we are facing. And the global crisis needs to be faced globally. Globally.
So, Archbishop, did you want to say?
No.
Are there any?
Yes.
I think one more question. Thank you. A little louder. Maybe you could come closer. We're glad to hear questions from our students. Great.
The kind of respect, I just pretty great for, I just speak to you. My grandpa had a photo of you in his drawer that he would show us sometime when we would visit him. But I was wondering, what would you say to the children of like Armenian parents and like, you know, just like grandparents and stuff who just refuse to change and refuse to like forwards and like advanced in fighting climate change. I have many family members who are just like I guess like aligned with like politics that go against like, you know, like they believe in leaders who, you know, pull us out of the Paris Agreement or like, you know, invest in oil and stuff like that. And I was just like, how would we, you know, help them understand that that's just not the way.
I think she is indicating this is perhaps something that's a little more common in the United States, but she is indicating her parents, maybe grandparents, do not believe in climate change, perhaps, or they don't feel it is as big an issue. For the reason that I mentioned earlier, there are individuals who may have politicized this issue, and so they don't think it is as serious as it is, and as you have indicated.
But we have to make them feel that this is a serious matter. So all these climate, let's say, crisis, dangers, flooding that are happening around us, right?
Fires
And
here,
fire
we
is very,
experience that.
the fires, you see, I mean, these are the signs, the expressions that something is wrong. And in fact, terribly wrong in our house. They should know this. I mean, these are not coming from heaven.
These are related to the way human being is treating the environment, right? Well, the sinner is the human being. The misuse, rather it's an abuse, I would say, the abuse of the creation.
Even down.
That's a message you can take to your folks.
We have another engagement.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I think we will unfortunately have to cut off the questions here. But thank you so much, the Hapardad, for your wonderful talk and lessons and questions.